I'd like to call this meeting to order. Today, Tuesday, March 18th, of the Ripon Public Library Board of Trustees. And I'd like to call a roll call quickly. Doug Iverson,
Here.
Lisa Weeks,
Here.
Brex Spears,
Counted for.
Janet Voskable.
Here.
I'm sure I probably butchered your last name, Janet, I'm sorry. Okay, and Mary Madaram. We have two people that were unable to attend tonight, so this is our group. And we'll turn it over to PRA for the presentation.
Well,
Oh, how about if we go through, do you guys want to introduce your people when you get started? And yeah, then let's roll.
That's where I planned to start. Perfect segue.
Okay.
Thank you.
Perfect, thank you.
Well, first of all, thank you for putting us at the top of the agenda. I know Dan and I appreciate that. With that
Of
being
course.
said, Jason Custo, Plunkett Racich Architects, I'm one of the partners there. I oversee all of the work that we kind of do in the civic realm. So it can be a project like this, it can be remodelings to a government center, and those types of projects. I'm one of a number of different team members that have been working on the project from PRA. But I drew the short straw apparently, and so I'm here at 5 o'clock. But all good. Actually, very happy to be here. Actually, in all sincerity, and then I'll let Dan introduce himself, really excited about where the project maybe started and where we are now. I really think that as we walk through the project, and got some drawings and some images and the like to show you, that I hope you'll feel that same excitement. With that being said, Dan?
Yeah, my name is Dan Romer. I'm with MSA, leading the team from the civil side of things. So from that standpoint, mainly the exterior of the building, I would say. I've worked with the city on multiple projects, and you know, Jason made a joke about being here at 5 p.m. I appreciate being here at 5 rather than 7.
Yeah.
for city board meetings, so our city council meetings. So so again, I'll kind of touch on some of the exterior improvements and stuff like that, and then we can kind of go from there. So
Yeah, so maybe just real briefly, tell you just a little bit more about the team. So PRA, we are the architects. MSA is not only our civil or site engineer, but they're also doing the MEP engineering, mechanical, electrical, plumbing engineering for the project. I got a little bit on the screen about who we are, but we do work all over the country, not only in this realm, but healthcare and residential, senior living and education here in town. Maybe, God, time flies when you're having fun. It's probably about 9 years ago or so now, but the middle school, high school project was ours. It seems like yesterday, but it was not. That being said, we do absolute ton of work with MSA. So they are our favorite and our primary MEP and civil engineer. And our companies have worked together for, good golly, 20 some odd years, if not more. And with that, Dan, anything you want to say about MSA? I didn't include anything about you because I know you've done work previously, but I probably should.
you know, we're really a full service firm again, as Jason mentioned. You know, we do the mechanical, electrical, plumbing. You know, we do a little bit of everything. We partner with these guys on a lot of our bigger projects like this. So very well acclimated with the PRA team and MSA. So there's, you know, I guess there's not a ton as far as MSA goes, unless you guys really care to hear more. But
Oh, yeah.
I won't bore you if you don't want to.
Make that full screener.
It's about as full screen as I can get it. We certainly, you'll see, we'll have the capacity to zoom in when we have those discussions. What I just wanted to take a second before we looked at drawings and looked at the design and where we're at is maybe just talk for a minute or two about kind of the process and how we got to where we are today. So, we were initially thought we were going to be doing a study. And then lo and behold, one day Adam called me and said, well, good news, we're not doing a study. What does that mean? He goes, well, we're going to do a full project. So what we've done since that day is any number of things to get us to where we are today. One, we had to figure out, okay, here's the dollars that are available. What does that mean for a project? Does it mean architectural changes, engineering changes, site changes, how that all fit into the dollars that you had available? Then we had to understand, I know there was a prior study done by another firm, what maybe that was. And then I know there was a site design, and so we had to understand what that was. And then we said, okay, we understand all that, now let's meet with the library users, the staff specifically, and understand how does this building operate? What are some of the shortcomings? What are some of the things that we like? What are, tell us more about some of your activities, story times, those types of things. Help us understand some of the deficiencies in the building. You know, what's problematic, what doesn't function as well as you'd like. All that. So we had a number of different sessions where we sat down with Alex and her team and listened to the different library staff about kind of what some of the needs were, where some of the problems were, how we could make this building better, and I think almost as importantly, not only make the building better, and when I mean better, I mean really function and serve you, the patrons of the library, but also there's a lot of work being done that is, for lack of a description, behind the scenes where we're going to get this building into a situation where another 25, 30 years should be no problem. So we'll talk about some of the work we're doing to mechanical and electrical systems, some of the work we're doing to replace some of the windows that are single pane glass, which we don't use anymore, and stuff like that. So ultimately what the project really has become, in my mind, is a very well-rounded project. And what I mean by that is we're taking care of a lot of mechanical, electrical, plumbing system deficiencies. We've been able to listen to the staff and feel and understand where there are some issues in the building and try to correct those and try to work towards correcting them. And where we're at from a design standpoint is what we call the beginning of construction documents. So we have worked through the design, worked with the team, worked with Alan with Ripon, work with Adam with Ripon, work with the MSA team, and come to our design. So what I want to then do is I'm going to walk through the drawings briefly, just so we kind of orientate ourselves on what the project is. I then have a video that will, for lack of a description, fly through the design, so we can see everything, and we've got all the materials that are potentially in the project rendered. We're showing where new furniture wants to be, and the like. Walk through that, and then I have some other images where if we have some specific questions about areas, spaces, what we're doing, we can look at those. Also on the table is a couple paper copies of everything you'll see up here with respect to plans, in case we need to reference them.
I'm gonna interrupt really quick. For Mary, it was in the packet, and if you got it on your laptop, there are copies as well, because I know you're probably having a hard time seeing it from Zoom.
Yeah, so, yeah, obviously the plans, they're slightly different because we've been working from what we sent you, but generally speaking, they're the same thing. With that being said, I'm just gonna kind of briefly talk about the areas that we're affecting in the project, and then also, like Dan talked about, the areas on the site we're affecting, and then we can get into the actual fun stuff, if you would call it, some of the design elements. So I'm gonna start here on the lower level. Obviously, we're in this Silver Creek meeting room, and let me know if I need to make anything bigger for zooming in or in person. So we're going to do some new finishes here. There are two existing conference rooms here that, for the sake of the drawings, we've retitled as Zoom Room and Telehealth Room. We know that they have some names, but to meet some of the grant requirements, we've got to use some of this terminology. And so the telehealth room and the Zoom room are both set up so that an individual who maybe doesn't have internet service or poor internet service can come here and have Zoom type conferences. And so the Zoom room technically would be for like maybe a job interview, maybe talking to somebody about prospective employment, that type of thing. And the telehealth room, so that would be for telemedicine or telehealth, whatever terminology you want to use. That's actually a requirement to the grant to dedicate a space to this use. So that's that room is getting repurposed a little bit. Not a little bit. It is.
What's the name of that room right now?
Serestal, am I
Yes.
getting that right?
And
Thank
there's
you.
the Jorgensen.
Jorgensen, yes.
It's Jorgensen.
Jorgensen
Seresco.
is Zoom,
Yeah.
if
Okay.
you will. Telehealth
Okay,
is
thank you.
the other room. The telehealth room gets some new technology to facilitate some of those telehealth discussions, so monitor, to have a discussion and the like.
Thank you.
Next area that we're affecting on the lower level is we're completely redoing the men's and women's toilet rooms. So all new finishes, all new toilet partitions, completely new, not only from a finish standpoint, all the plumbing fixtures are new, the piping systems are new.
Is that
Up
main
to
floor?
there.
Main floor?
No.
Nope, we're still on this
Down
floor.
Down here.
Yep, so the bathrooms that are right to the left of us.
And a big part of that was getting them ADA compliance. And I believe in these restrooms, correct me if I'm wrong, we also have an adult changing station we're putting in as well.
Yes, not in
make it
these
more accessible.
main restrooms, but we do have an adult changing
Yes,
station.
ups.
I'll get there in a second.
Yeah.
So,
Just, can I ask a question?
absolutely.
For the access to the restrooms, are you putting in handicap access, operators on those doors? Do we need to do that?
Not in these particular restrooms. There are some rooms that do get what I call an ADA operator to facilitate that, but these doors, as they're designed, actually are 100% compliant.
Okay,
But we do have some of those items going in, and we'll do my best to remember to highlight that where that occurs.
Okay.
Also on this floor, the kitchenette is getting updated, so essentially it's being replaced, use for use, if you will. Sink, dishwasher, right?
Wow.
And then some casework here where a microwave will sit, and then there's a space dedicated for a fridge. So that, frankly, that area, I'm not telling you anything I don't think anybody knows, but was basically obsolete. So we're replacing that equipment there.
Obviously, it's not something I used very.
And then the other area, major area of work down here from an architectural standpoint is there are 2 lower level bathrooms that exist in the original portion of the building. So right by the other set of stairs, right after you come off the elevator lobby here, these are being completely redone and they're becoming what we would describe as family toilet rooms. So they are single user, unisex, multi-use toilet rooms on either side. And essentially both rooms are the same. This room right here, the southernmore of the two, actually you can see this door is kind of pinned against this wall. That is one instance where we are providing an ADA operator to provide that access because we need clearance at the door that exists at this toilet room but doesn't exist to allow somebody in a wheelchair or walker to come through and use this bathroom. Both these bathrooms will have changing stations in them for babies due to the proximity of the romper room. So if you're there with a young child and you gotta clean those diapers up, I've forgotten what that is, but but yes, the proximity to baby changing is in both of these toilet rooms.
How many bathrooms are on this floor then?
4.
Okay.
And for lack of a better description, one of the phrases I use a lot as an architect is you were over toileted. So you didn't need as many fixtures as you had. It's an architecture term. You feel free to use it.
Very technical.
Very technical, but yes, you had too many toilets, so we were able to, if you've been in either one of these toilet rooms, they are multi-user toilet rooms right now. They will go to single-user toilet rooms now. It really just helps. We found our experiences like if you're changing your young son or young daughter, you want to be able to lock that door. You want to be able to lay out all your stuff, put them on the changing station. You don't want anybody coming in. So be a great benefit to the users of this lower level. Also in this area, while not shown on our drawings, there's a number of improvements being made to the mechanical systems. Plumbing systems we're replacing. There's some electrical panels that have bad breakers and that type of thing, and those are all getting replaced and redone as part of this project. Any questions, generally speaking, on the work being done in the lower level before
Then you're not touching those both rooms?
not really at all. Go ahead.
The outside doors there, are they gonna be replaced?
Yeah, that's a great question. So
Yeah,
I was gonna talk about it on this upper floor, but I'm
Right.
gonna go ahead and use your question to answer it. So, yes, there's this pair of doors that leads right outside the break room to the exterior. Those doors are being completely replaced, brand new both at the vestibule and then also at the exterior. This is also the area of the building, only occurs on this side, but all of these windows are being replaced. Those are all single pane glass. I think you've told us, Alex, you've experienced the single pane glass, obviously very drafty and the like. So all of the glass that is in these windows that gets replaced, essentially in kind, its design is slightly different, thermally broken frames, insulated glass, but essentially the aesthetics will be generally very similar to what exists now, so we're not changing aesthetics at all.
So furniture and or furnishings or whatever, cupboards in the office or the break room, any renovation in there?
We're not doing anything at the break room in the offices as part of this project, correct?
So when you talked about the kitchenette, where is the kitchenette?
Off the break room,
Oh, okay.
you may call it the kitchen. That's another little secret. I don't use the word kitchen unless I have to as an architect. Because kitchen connotates cooking, and if we're cooking, that leads to a whole bunch of requirements I don't like to talk
okay.
about. So yeah, you may refer to it as the kitchen, but the term I'm using is the kitchenette.
The kitchenette, okay.
So in a nutshell, and in 5 minutes or so, that's the work on this level. I'm gonna go ahead and jump upstairs if you don't mind. Again, similarly to the lower level, all the glazing in the original portion of the building along the creek side is getting replaced. We're also replacing the door that leads to the emergency egress pathway on the very west side of the building.
Glazing, what's glazing?
Window?
Window, glass,
Okay,
Storefront.
I'm learning new terms.
So you're saying the emergency door that faces the parking lot, is that the one?
no, this is actually the one that faces, I call that lawn area. If you walk down there and there's that door, and then there's a few steps, and then there's a path out. The term I would use for it is an egress door, exit door. The other thing that, so that's generally speaking kind of the perimeter of the work. I'm gonna go ahead and go back to, if you will, the front doors. So I've zoomed in on that, hopefully. So this would be your two main entrance doors, your vestibule doors, your elevator here to orientate yourself. I'm gonna also talk about this kind of side door that exists that leads directly into the stairs. That door will be replaced in its entirety, windows adjacent and like. 3 reasons for that. 1, to provide some new hardware that allows that to be locking, which will, for lack of a description, my words, push the traffic to all the, to the main door. Secondly, we'll put a card reader on that door, so that will allow Alex and her team to be able to get in and out very easily as they're not only coming in as a staff, maybe before working hours, but also during the day when potentially deliveries are being made from books from.
Alex, is that door right now for staff only?
It is for staff only, it is not being used that way. We have folks who sneak in before we open or
Oh.
decide to go that way down into these
Because it's
meeting rooms.
unlocked, because
Yeah.
it has to be, yeah.
Yeah, cause it does have some wonky hardware.
Yeah,
all
so
we
hardware
updated.
gets addressed, allowing that to be locked, if you will. Obviously, if it's an egress or emergency situation, you can still get out of the building, but not
For the
come into the
mail
building.
and
Yeah,
delivery
the
guy.
book drop can come through there.
But I mean, would the mail guy and the delivery guy get cards then, or you would just let them
They
in?
would probably just come through the front door, like
Okay.
normal, or we can let them in.
Yeah.
It's mostly for staff purposes and building security.
I got yelled at for using that door.
I didn't yell at you.
Damn.
That being said, after we come through the main entrance doors, the circulation area is getting completely redone. We'll probably better to look at this in 3 dimensions, but, and we will in a second, but completely different circulation desk with areas that are, so this would be at a taller height for those that are standing when you're checking in materials, checking out, discussing items with the staff. These areas on the side will be at a lower level. That does 2 things for us. 1, provides the accessibility we need, and 2, on the children's side, it provides the ability for them to bring a book up to the counter and place it on there, and allow a youngster to check out their own books, if you will. Workspace behind the actual circulation desk is getting revised. There's a dedicated workspace here for one of the staff. This is an area dedicated to working through book transfers and circulation type activities.
Interlibrary loans is kind of what's going there, the red bins, if you're familiar with those.
I'm gonna go ahead and zoom out a little bit, and then I'm gonna talk about the addition area of the building, or the northern portion, if you will. The current adult area will become the children's area under this proposed design. You'll see
And
right.
I'll clarify, the nonfiction adult area, cause it's
Oh, okay,
kind of split,
thank you.
just so it's not confusing.
No,
And
thank you.
reference- And reference it was, right?
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
correct.
The existing fireplace element that exists here will be removed. And then we'll certainly look at the layout of the furniture, and obviously the furniture was also in your packet, but we'll talk about that more in a minute. There'll be a dedicated area here for story time that we'll look at. And then in the far corner, we're creating a single user bathroom, toilet room. And then also an adjacent, what we're calling mother's room, but a space that can serve both as mother's room type activities. I've also found, and a lot of our libraries have found, it's a great place to take maybe a youngster that's, maybe acting out of sorts a little bit, just a space to calm them for a minute or two before you come back out. So it serves a multitude of purposes. Both, the mother's room will also have a sink.
Not nursing though? Is it glassed in or?
No, it's a room, so
It's
Right.
an enclosed room,
Or there-
yes, so you could nurse in there.
yes, nursing activities
Okay.
could potentially occur there.
Right now, it's just a vacant corner, is it, with some books?
It's
Well,
just part of
Local
the,
history.
yeah, it
Local
is,
history.
is local history,
Yes.
that's exactly where that is right now.
Will the library be closed for months or so while this is going on?
We're not anticipating any long-term closure, and feel free to jump in if you have, but there might be a day or two as you're moving materials from one side to the other, but what we've proposed is a phased approach, a three-phased approach,
Oh, okay.
that should allow, obviously, collections are gonna be reduced a lot.
We're actively reading, with the book sale in mind coming up and, looking at circulation stats and what's used and what's not.
But yes, we're envisioning a three-phase project where conceptually shouldn't be needing to close more than maybe a week at the most, and I'm probably overestimating that, just to allow items to move back and forth during the phases. All those kind of phasing idiosyncrasies would be determined a little bit more once we get a contractor and a mover on board and all those things. We'll take a look at this area more in the video and in the images. And then kind of working towards the remainder of the building, so we're back in the lobby, I'm going this way. Alex's office will remain where it is now. We will be creating a second door into her office. This area will be a staff work area too, dedicated staff work area. And then,
I will say for context of why the second door, so if any of the public or you all are coming to see me, you're not walking through the staff work area, so it remains staff only.
also,
Is the office smaller than it was?
it's the exact same size. The
Okay.
office stays the exact same size.
I mean, yours and the other one smaller?
They're
Not-
generally
not
within the
much.
same size.
Okay.
I would say that this one is probably a scotch bit smaller, but it's also a little more probably tucked away than it is now.
Or maybe
So,
more
so
effective?
more efficient.
Okay.
Well said. We're creating a kind of an individualized study room that could be used for anyone, but it's directly adjacent to what would be the young adult area. So I'm envisioning if a couple teenagers are working on some homework or something like that, or working on a project, that they'll be able to
Okay.
use that room. It does have the majority of the walls on it, maybe about half are glass, so a good ability to see in there.
We had rooms like that when I taught at Madison.
Yeah, we found them get highly used, so I'm sure you'll see the same. Directly off here, there's what we're calling the business center, but really is that area where the copy machine is, that those that don't have access to that type of equipment can use this area to make copies, scans, prints, that type of thing.
So that makes a little bit sense with the context, because I've been staring at this for several months now. What that means is the space where the copier currently is being transitioned into, you'll see book sale for the Friends, to give them a dedicated
Really?
space.
Nice.
And make it easier for staff to assist folks on the copier and printer, as opposed to kind of essentially being closeted in.
Yes, great segue, thank you. But yeah, so the current area where the copier is here is being, as you said, dedicated book sale spaces, we're describing it, but a dedicated space for the Friends to put shelving and displays and that type of thing.
Or kind of what was in the middle.
Yeah, kind of what was in the middle is well said.
And so those things will be out in the open now, that's not boxed in like a room, is it?
There are 3 walls to it, but the 4th wall is completely
Are
open.
you talking about the copier though?
Yeah, I'm talking about the copier, so.
Oh, I'm sorry. There's a wall that equipment resides on. We'll see it better 3-dimensionally, but otherwise, it's in an open, completely open area.
Just out.
Because it looked to me like you couldn't get in there.
Like
as-
there's walls,
as a-
yeah.
Yeah, that's, you're probably seeing this line, which is some dimensional information that we have on here.
And likewise, the space where the Friends books are going is opening up more than it currently is right now too.
Yeah, and we'll see that real well when we do the
Right, it has a
video.
door now, yeah.
Mhm. Yeah, it'll be completely wide open. These 2 bathrooms, similar to the lower level bathrooms, are getting a, converted to single user. And then, they are also getting that adult changing station that was discussed. So there'll be one of those in, the toilet rooms. The other thing that's being created here, you'll see there's a new wall that will go in front of those, existing bathrooms when they're redone. What that does is twofold. It provides a little bit of privacy, you're not looking directly in there. And 2, this wall will be coming, you'll see it in the imagery a little bit, but that'll be a space that's dedicated for some of the pamphlets and brochures and items that are currently kind of in your lobby area and in your vestibule, and trying to get them to a dedicated space where everybody can kind of see them, but yet frees up other areas for library purposes.
Jason, will all the restrooms be single user in the library?
And on this floor, yes, there's still the ones directly adjacent here that will be a multi-user toilet room. And the reason we kept that is in the event that there's an activity here with 25, 30,
Yeah.
35, 40,
That makes sense.
you know, want to be able to, you know, have a break or whatever it may be to go over there. So, but otherwise, yes, the rest of the bathrooms will all be single user.
With a lock.
Yeah, they'll have that, we always design them with that privacy lock that says you occupied, unoccupied, so, you know, obviously it'll be locked, but more importantly,
Let's say
somebody
there's
won't.
at least one multi-use
Yeah.
restroom.
We'll take a look at the young adult and adult area a little bit more in the 3-dimensional imagery. The other thing I want to point out, and I'll let Dan just briefly talk about the site, is that right here where there's currently some windows, and that's also where we're going to create an entry to what I'll call an enclosed outdoor reading area. And we'll see that a little bit better in some of the other imagery, but that will have a seating wall around it and then also a railing. And that'll be a space that's available during the, for lack of a description, nicer times of the year for somebody to come out and read a book, hang out with their kids, all of those types of things. We've done this before and found these are highly, highly used spaces. So generally speaking, from a plan view standpoint, that's kind of the scope of work. You'll see it in some of the imagery too, but new finishes, new lighting, new ceiling materials in some of the areas. So almost a complete redo of those 2 areas of the building. Go ahead.
I have a brief question. So are we redoing all the LED lighting, is that all going out?
All the lighting, other than in some back of house spaces,
Okay,
is being replaced.
okay, that's fine. And another quick question. Upstairs where the Friends have their book display, that thing up there with shelves on it, is that gonna still be here? That was an Eagle Scout project, and I just wondered.
And
about-
they have made me aware of that, so
Yeah.
their plan is to repurpose it. This is going to be their dedicated space, so no
Okay.
more tables along walls to
Okay.
ensure that we're staying.
Well, we're keeping that, it's gonna be repurposed or something.
Yes,
Okay.
yep, they'll find it a new home, potentially in the book sale area, but
Okay.
I've been talking with them about that.
So this
Oh,
is
I'm
an
sorry.
adult question, the big room, the big adult. I see YA, then is there fiction and non-fiction, do you know? where
So-
they're going yet or not?
Yeah, maybe,
And there will be kind of a visual of this as
Okay.
well, but the YA, we have kind of a dedicated teen section now, and the rest, where it says adult stacks, they were
I
down.
switched drawings on you to try to,
There.
so yes.
It's kind of broken down a little
Yeah,
bit.
so we've got, YA, AV, new books, adult fiction, nonfiction, large print, and then some reading areas. We'll see those 3-dimensionally. There'll be an area
That'd be a
dedicated
large
for periodicals and newspapers and some dedicated reading areas. Those of you that are looking at this drawing say, why is some of it yellow and why is some of it not? Yellow is what we have in the budget as new furniture, fixture, or equipment. What doesn't have a yellow is repurposed equipment.
There's reference up front. I know you have a lot less actual books in reference.
Yeah,
but-
actually,
References tucked over there.
Okay.
It is a smaller collection
Yeah.
and has been
Uh-huh.
pared down a little bit. For kind of some context as well, we have not, you keep moving on me. We,
we'll get it figured out by the time we're done.
we don't have it broken down specifically where like genres and everything are going, but large print, I do wanna briefly touch on,
Yep.
is where it is, for ease of access. You know, it's not accessible, the fact that it is split as it currently is, that is a hassle for staff and patrons. So it's an easy flow in, and it's also right by a seating area, because those are typically our patrons who like to sit down and browse or need to sit down and browse. For context.
No problem. While we're here talking about furniture, I might as well then also take a look at the children's side, if you will. And here you can start to see again, yellow is new furniture, and one of the things you're seeing, and you'll see it three-dimensionally here in a minute, but kind of this dedicated area with some furniture that can be used for a couple different purposes, but moved around, but kind of a dedicated story time area. Also another area I'd like to highlight is what we described as the baby garden, but really an area that's sort of half partially enclosed, kind of enclosed, so that a youngster would have the ability to crawl around in that space.
And they are very common in libraries now. This isn't a weird thing we came up with. But essentially it's a dedicated space for the babies that's not out in the middle where you've got, you know, the toddlers or bigger kids who might step on them or, you know, make them feel uncomfortable. And likewise for parents,
So
kind of seating along there.
Garden, the word garden, are there plants in there? I mean, what's-
No, it's just the,
Really.
but if you like to grow some plants, no.
That's the girl baby.
It's just,
My mind's going off on this baby.
The Cabbage Patch
Think of it like a beer garden for babies.
That sounds right on my
right,
alley.
there's no plants there either, just the plant. no.
Exactly.
So that's furniture, if you will. I wanna just let Dan talk a little bit about some of the site changes.
Do you wanna do mine right away, or do you wanna do your three-dimensional
No, let's,
stuff, or?
I wanna talk about the whole building, if you will, and then we
Okay.
can look three-dimensionally, if that's okay.
Okay, I'm gonna start kind of on the bottom left side of the screen. So over here where Jason was talking about some of those doors that are gonna be replaced, those are the steps going out and the sidewalk going back out to the sidewalk. I believe that's emergency exit. Those steps are kind of tipped and very non-conforming to what a standard step is. So replacing those steps, nothing with the platform over there is gonna be touched. It's kind of a cantilever hanging out along the edge of the building, so it'll just be the steps in front of it. I believe there's 2 of them that will be replaced along with the sidewalk, and then some minor disturbance, grass, planting, stuff like that over there. So very minimal over there, but basically making that so it's a little bit more user-friendly, not a trip hazard, so. Kind of moving off to the right there, that is, as Jason had mentioned, that is the outdoor kind of reading area. That area is roughly 12 by, I think 30, let me double check. 12 by about 33, so we lined it up with a few things on the building. You know, there's a column or a pillar, I'll call it, that's not the architectural term, but that's one of the bump outs there in the building. So we kind of squared it off there, and then the other entrance or egress door there on the right-hand side, that right there, is an existing sidewalk that will also be replaced to match in. Again, the intent here is not to have that sidewalk have access in, because we want users to be going in and out of the building itself. So kind of where that arrow comes through the wall there, that's about where that new door would be to get into here. So we don't just want the public coming up here and sitting here, we want it more specifically for library users.
So it's cement, not grass, though.
Correct, you see the kind of those little triangles and stuff like that, those little specks, that will be all concrete, yes. And then there will be, I guess.
Yeah, what I described as a seat wall, but a partial height masonry wall that you could also sit on. I like to do those. One, I think it provides a little better sense of security. It's not as kind of maybe forbidding or just not as welcoming as like just a fence. And the other reason I like to do them is, gosh forbid, a car misses the curb. And those things do happen, so there's kind of a threefold reason to do it.
It is on a curve there, you know,
It
you
does-
have traffic traveling there,
I
so.
mean, we all read about these things, right? And so,
It's
yeah,
never
that's-
gonna happen here.
and we are somewhat close to the road, so that's why we're kind of creating this element.
And so we are gonna try to, I think we're still gonna try to soften that look with some plantings along the outside there with, what did we have in there? Some boxwood, so just kind of some greenery, you know, something that's low maintenance that softens that look a little bit, so you're not looking all concrete there. And that would basically surround kind of that larger patio area. Up, you could go right up to that sidewalk, so. Yes.
So back to that other entry, it still wouldn't be an entry or exit you would use, it's an emergency only?
Yeah, emergency.
Because that would be a nightmare for
Yeah.
staff if.
No.
Could
No
run and go
one's-
that
No,
way, yes.
no. Just making it so if it is an emergency, you don't have an emergency on top of an emergency.
Yeah, the other reason we have to replace this sidewalk is to do this work, we essentially have to replace take that sidewalk out.
Right. Kind of moving into the parking lot, this is where things change a little bit more. Right now, basically nothing out there is ADA compliant, if you follow what ADA compliance requires. So basically the entrance way there, kind of right where the cursor is, where we kind of got that triangle there, that is gonna have like those yellow detectable warning fields that you see in sidewalks and things like that. So that will be kind of the main entrance going in, and that is lined up with that existing door there. Basically replacing all the concrete out in front there, and then where you can kind of see that little purple box there, that is a new storm sewer inlet. So there's one that's existing that's kind of right in front of where that walkway is, so we're gonna shift that over a little bit, get that so that it collects water not in the bottom of the walkway, so that it's not always icy. And then kind of right behind that is gonna be where the new book drop is gonna be, and that will be mounted right to the concrete pad. So again, kind of right where the cursor is there, that's gonna be all new concrete going down to the bottom of the page there. And then kind of, Jason, if you kind of want to circle that square area way at the bottom there, that's kind of more of like a waiting, like seating area if you're waiting for somebody to come pick you up, or that type of thing. It's kind of just a space to provide a resting area. Maybe we throw some benches in there that hasn't been maybe fully vetted yet, but something where you could sit and wait on a nice day or things like that. So
Yeah, I think, we found that that's great too, I mean, and you're gonna have somebody that's using the library that's probably using like a ride share, right?
Well,
So that,
the cab comes.
yeah, so they can, so if it's a great day like today, right, they don't have to stand in the vestibule, they can.
I think there's a bench out there now.
Yeah.
Well,
So, say, a little bit larger, but, and also closer to the parking lot, so they have a little bit
Good.
easier way to get there.
What's the parking?
So the purple is a storm inlet, so that is basically what you'll see in the curb and gutter along a road where it's kind of an opening with a grate on it when it rains, the water,
And
that's
not
what
that
causes.
purple, I meant the big.
Oh, the big one,
Yeah.
okay, I'm sorry, that is new asphalt, so
Oh.
basically that'll be saw cut kind of along that line on the right hand side. New curb and gutter will go in there, and then new asphalt just to kind of match in there, that's pretty rough right now. And the way that it's all tipped and sloped and stuff like that just isn't gonna work with what we have. So it's about, I think, 10 or 12 feet from where the existing curb is. So a lot of that will be kind of regraded and repaved in the parking lot most adjacent to the building. I guess one of the other big changes here is we are proposing one-way traffic through here.
Thank you.
So you can see the angled parking initially. I took off the existing lines because it was really hard to see. I wanted to show you guys what was proposed here. So it's one way in, one way out, and this had a lot to do with the book drop area. If you're driving up to it, right now it's kind of chaos, or you got people going backwards and things like that. So obviously, as you're driving in here, driver would be on the left-hand side, so you can drive up, pull up to the book drop it in, be on your merry way, or do what you need to do.
Okay.
There is a reduction in parking stalls out here as a result in that. I think we lost 7 or 8 parking stalls, I don't remember exactly, but that was kind of discussed with staff and the city staff, and they've made some sort of accommodations as far as where maybe staff would park on busy days or things like that. So, but I did want to bring it to your attention. Also, one other thing we're doing with the parking lot is providing much better access to the trail, to the drawing a blank what trail that is, but Northwest, there you go. Which we're also kind of tying into, so kind of move up into the northern part of the site here. So one of the things from staff was a request to try to get access down to the side of the building or to the back of the building a little bit more and use the creek area that's right here that we can't see. So this looks kind of silly, but for ADA compliance, you have to go down and kind of what I'll call a snake or a serpentine, kind of zigzag back and forth. It has to be under 5%, and if you're familiar with this side of the building over here, it's quite steep.
So that's a walkway?
That is a walkway. That's a 5-foot wide concrete walkway.
Where is the creek on
Let me zoom out.
The creek is kind of that line way down at the bottom. Yep. So we're still up on this. If you're familiar with it out here, there's kind of the tiers. There's a tier right here adjacent to the building. Then there's kind of a step down. Then there's one more kind of step down into the creek. So we're still up on this top tier where that last big loop comes down and it ties into the existing concrete patio right back in.
Even with the door.
Yep. And so we're the door is actually where that small little L is right there. Yep. So we're going to connect that as well. So just kind of providing a little bit more access and
Is this gonna encourage more people to migrate down into the?
I think that's the
That's
whole
the goal.
Yep. And so we're gonna clean up some of the brush that's down here that's grown up over the years and things like that and provide a little bit nicer view. We're not going all the way down. Again, it's more of this top tier because once you start messing with the creek, it turns into a permanent nightmare. So staying as far away from that as possible. And so as you kind of keep moving, I guess, down the screen there, that's all the existing patio. There's the back door right there. And then providing as you go to the left, providing like an 8-foot walkway to those stairs. Right now, there's really no way to get over there. And then that also ties in with the doors that are being replaced over there. So kind of really the outside making it more accessible all the way around.
Sure.
The only thing that we're really missing out on I would say, is probably some sort of walkway going back to the west side of the building. And that was just due to the steepness and the area that we had over there. We looked at both sides of the building, which one is better, which one is worse. There's some more mechanicals and some more things over there that we said, well, let's try to stay away from there. This might be a little bit nicer over here. So
those stairs are not things you're gonna do, the other two?
correct. The stairs we're not touching.
Are they safe? Right now?
That is a good question. It really, when you start talking about stairs and things like that, again, you're starting to talk about getting into the creek area. So permitting becomes a big issue. I didn't see that there was anything terribly unsafe about them, but we kind of started talking about it, and steps are extremely expensive. So that was one thing that was, if we wanted to do that, you're probably looking at the cost of the majority of that walkway going down for like those 10 stairs right there.
So the creek is inaccessible, basically. I mean, unless they wanna take a chance, but they're still on the property,
I think that these stairs here they're not perfect, but I wouldn't call them hazardous.
No, okay, but I mean, once.
But
if you
this
get-
set of stairs here, that's a different
I
discussion.
think those were the handmade ones
Yes.
that were down there.
I'm just saying, people are gonna do it, and it's still on our property, I guess.
The handmade stairs actually go into the water.
They
Right.
do.
Are we gonna keep those there?
Well,
That's really,
question.
because we're in the riverbed and in the wetlands, it's really outside of our scope. There was a decision made not to get, for lack of restriction, go into the wetland area with this project.
The reason that we're staying away from the creek and a lot of the wetland and waterways and stuff like that is because to permit that is probably a year-long process. And we don't have that kind of time for this grant. To be quite honest with you, I mean,
I think that's really the biggest driver of why we weren't and thought that potentially, want to do the stairs if you want to change the ones in the water. As Dan said, when we started this project, it was late fall. And we can't even start delineating the wetlands till what, maybe a month from now?
Yeah.
So we would have never made the permitting process
So
for
what's the plan
the.
for what's between the stairs you're doing and the creek, like, as for maintenance of that? It's not grass, it's stuff right now, so
That,
I guess I should ask you maybe, or.
Yeah, outside of our
what's the plan for that?
outside of our scope because of timing
Right.
and budgeting and
Right.
price.
So there's gonna be obviously some landscaping that occurs in this area, as well as the stairs. We've talked about doing more of a maintenance project if there's like a Eagle Scout or somebody
Yeah.
that wants a project like that.
Into the creek.
Yep, and if there's small improvements after this project's done that we can do down there to maintain it,
So
great.
future
Great,
possibly.
future, yep,
Yeah,
I mean,
okay.
minimal stuff, and we can't start digging and.
Right.
you
I guess
know,
I'm just curious what it would look like if we didn't do anything, because you can't mow it, essentially.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
think you can probably get it manicured or get somebody down there to
Okay.
get it to a controllable level. And then kind of go from there, obviously, you know, we don't want people, we can't build out things in the creek without a lot of permitting, and we don't really wanna encourage that. So we certainly can put some signage down there too, if you're concerned about that, but generally as well. You know, there's immunity that the city has from people making decisions like that, because you can't control everything, everybody does. And so I would say that this kind of gets us down there and improves the flow, and I think there's some furnishings we can put out here or have some areas developed that are more maintainable, and then kind of address that other area as well with some cleanup,
So we need a railing maybe to fence off the creek?
Well, and we've talked a lot about railings. No, I wouldn't say, you know,
Some way
we've
to
designed
block
this
that.
where there's no railings or anything needed. I think the steps, if you put something in, you could do it very maintenance wise, and you could add a very simple railing, and somebody could design that out and get it done pretty simply outside of the project.
But you guys won't be involved with that?
At least not as we sit here today.
Right,
No.
right.
Are you making a big donation? Because then we could probably.
I'm still trying to find the guy that made the steps.
So that in a nutshell, I would say there is some minor landscaping that's being done, like I had mentioned, around that patio area, and then out in front between the parking lot and the building, there are some minor tree plantings and some mulch that's gonna be put in as part of this. But very, very minimal, and then basically all the grass or anything like that goes along that trail, any disturbance limits is gonna be planted as like a no-mow type of grass due to the slope over there. And that is, basically, it grows 12 to 18 inches high and pretty much stops growing, so you don't get the tall weeds, dandelion, and that was at the request of library. If you have children running around and stuff like that, if you're sitting on this back patio enjoying the view, you can look over if your children are running around, so it was more of a safety thing.
And I will throw in, that was also Alan, Public Works, his personal request as well,
Right.
so we kind of took his input on that. It's not just-
I think the slope, again, for how steep this hill is, I think it'd be very hard to maintain, so we tried to do something very low maintenance that isn't gonna take a ton of time from the city or library staff or any of that type of stuff, so.
Okay. Great.
Any other questions, I guess, regarding,
What's a triangle in the middle there that touches the snake?
that is gonna be, riprap, so that's gonna be more of a stone, that's where it gets really steep, that's where that retaining wall is over there. And so we are adding some minor storm sewer to get underneath the sidewalk, because again, that sidewalk is gonna be a little bit higher, so kind of armoring that so it doesn't wash out all the time. And then there would be, basically you'll see probably a couple pipes that you won't really see them, but they will be sticking out a little bit out through that berm or through that drop off, that first tier. Just so that we don't have a ton of water, so a lot of the downspouts on the exterior where there's concrete adjacent to the building will go underground and out to the creek, rather than across the top.
With all that being said, that's kind of the design as we walk through it. We'll take a look at some pretty images in a second. Just want to reiterate, the yellow furniture is new. When you start to see the video that we've developed, you'll see placeholders. We don't know what that new furniture is yet. We haven't gotten that far in design other than identifying these are new. So you'll see like tables and chairs, but if they're the right style, and you'll see all of them are white. So we haven't picked out any fabrics or anything like that as we walk through. With that being said, I'm walking in the front door, and we're gonna take ourselves on a little walkthrough of what the completed design will look like. So you're seeing the circulation desk as you walk in, view to the left to the adult area, view to the right to what will become children's area.
Mhm.
And we're gonna Gonna walk through. We're
I'm
gonna-
ready to freak out again.
No,
To the left, this is, again, furniture is represented, but that'd be the furniture there for Friends of the Library, a directory monitor, new drinking fountain. I can stop this at any time if anybody wants me to stop. There's that kind of business center as we described it, but the copier and a little place to take care of your items when you're doing copying or scanning or printing. Again, this wall on the left that you're seeing right now is that wall we're picturing the pamphlets, the information material, and the like being held.
Is,
Do you have a question? I can stop.
what's that thing in the middle? Where are the, here's what I'm asking really, where are the card catalog computers?
They're scattered throughout.
Okay, not a central.
Nope.
Okay,
I believe actually this
Is
is
that one of them,
represented,
or is that
represent,
one
no,
right
this is
there?
a display, so like a display for new material or that
Oh,
type of
okay.
thing. I believe actually this is, your computerized card catalog element. We'll continue now, the green and then the windows, that's that study room I mentioned for, in the young adult area.
How many people could sit in that study room?
You know, if it was adults, I'd say 3, if I was saying it was teenagers, I could see up to 6 in there. I
Okay.
mean, you know how they are,
And to go back,
at
we
least that's how
haven't,
mine is.
we haven't picked furniture yet, but it is our intention for it to be a more flexible space than, say, our study rooms down here.
This is actually, we're looking to the right here is the door into, the new door into Alex's office.
Mhm. Is that floor just a representation of what we might do?
Nope, that is the design, so it's a, pattern carpets that introduce some color into the various spaces. You'll see there's, in this area, the young adult, there's kind of a couple different tones here, an orange and then kind of a gray tone. They're reflected both in these ceiling elements. So that's a ceiling baffle that you're seeing the orange and the gray.
Okay.
That's really serves two purposes, some visual interest, but more importantly, it provides some acoustics. So if they're, you know, my daughter's 15, you know, she's not the quietest, right? You know, sometimes it can be loud, right? So that's why we have these acoustic elements. If somebody's got a quiet one, good for them. Mine is not.
I like the orange,
Yeah.
kind of brick looking stuff.
Windows, again, these are being replaced, as we talked about, kind of some of these various different height seating areas, different sizes too, you know, comfortable furniture, loungy type, table for 4, maybe, again, using that scenario, working on a project or something like that, and then also smaller kind of high varied seating areas to give that kind of variety. You can see the various seating areas that will exist along the windows, so where there are windows are, that'll be the ability to stand up there, look out to the creek, work on your homework, read a book, all those kinds of things.
And we currently have tables there that are highly used, like multiple people every day, so the intention was to keep those for people
They
like
have some charging stations, some of those.
Yeah, there will be outlets there so that somebody could plug in, if you will.
It's supposed to be reading books. Can't go anywhere without cell.
How about the paperbacks? Did you get rid of them or just move them?
we're
No, we don't have
moving
books
some
now.
things around.
No books.
No,
No
paperbacks.
No
This is
books.
not a library.
Virtual
Janet.
No
library.
books, no books, no.
So now we're getting into, I'll let the view change a little bit, but, so this is the start of the imagery for, and the area where the kind of adult seating area is. There's again, variety of different seating, soft seating, tables and chairs. Great tones in the carpet, as you can see. Again, the ceiling baffle element, but a different, more kind of subdued gray color, along with some, I'll call them purple or maroon tones that you'll see as we move through.
Where does this fit in? What's it next to this area?
This is facing the street, right where we described where the outdoor patio area will be.
Okay, good.
And the reference collection, if you're thinking internally.
See the
Is there
grades.
magazine racks at all?
Yeah, this whole area has different, can't speak, but talking too long straight. Some different shelving and materials for periodicals.
It's big. I didn't know we had this much space.
So your new books might be there then? Is that what you were saying?
That's actually large print.
Oh,
We
yeah.
kind of
Oh,
skipped the
forgot
middle
already.
in the tour, but
Yeah, we'll get, and so then, I wanna go back just a skosh.
So is that facing the street then?
Yeah, so that's that,
So there's
one
that outdoor
applause there,
patio.
that's the new full glass wall looking out on that enclosed patio. You can see again that masonry seat walls, I'll describe it, some sort of fencing there, and then kind of some furniture that might give like a cafe feel.
It's a good view of the lake.
We like to refer to that as infinity, but yes, we don't have anything rendered
There's some
for,
really nice apartments there.
well, that or a parking lot, right, but yes.
It's looking out over the mill pond, it's elevated and everything.
Now we're gonna start to circle back towards, again, the entry area.
Would those be actual displays that we met? Like that display,
Some of those are new, correct.
okay, good.
So they're a combination.
And can I ask before we
Yeah.
slide forward, is it gonna take us back to the middle of the adult collection? Cause it did not show that additional seating that's down the middle.
Yeah, it does not, but I have some other imagery.
Okay,
that we can
cool.
look at.
Show what?
We have additional seating in the adult area.
Gotcha, it did not show that.
It
Yeah.
did not show that.
Yeah, just real briefly, we didn't
Pretty.
walk through that. So here you start to see the reimagined circulation desk. We've listened to the users about what type of shelving, where they need open area to put bins, how many carts they're using and the like. You can see the Friends area again. Walking past the main entrance door, if you will again.
Did the glass all need redoing?
Yeah, that's one thing I did mention,
Front
thanks for the
entry.
question to help me remember that. So all of the glass at the front area is being replaced with a material that has a lesser light transmission. And so
Won't
that
heat
will,
up so much.
won't heat up so much, so it does have a better solar heating coefficient too, but yeah, won't heat up, but more, also probably just as importantly, right time of day, it really comes through there, that sun, right, big
Looks
glare,
beautiful, okay.
so trying to cut down on that too.
Yeah, fantastic, yeah.
Very beautiful.
Looking
Love
back
it.
at the revised circulation area, and then we're gonna start to move forward into, again, the
Middle.
middle of the children's area, so you can see kind of the carpet, so again, representational of the materials, various colors. Those carpet colors are then reflected in the different colors on the wall. I'm going to pause, you'll see that middle ceiling area is getting redone, so right in the center, that's currently an acoustical tile with new lighting in there, and you can see again representational, but different fixtures than what you have now. And then just kind of an area, ceiling element to center that space. To the left there is the non-planted baby garden.
They're growing.
I'm gonna pause here again. Now you can start to see a large television monitor. Here's this area that we're calling the story time area. That furniture will be movable, flexible, great space to seat with kids.
So for context, the goal is to have story time upstairs in this area rather than downstairs in the romper
Really?
room, and to have the romper room be a play space going forward.
So even the loud music she plays and they sing and dance and all that is gonna be.
I mean, it has its own wing now, so
Well, yeah, I mean, it was hard to get downstairs. I
Sure.
think this is a
Do
good
they have
idea, I'm
screens?
just wondering how noisy it'll be, that's all.
Yeah.
sure. Well, I will say libraries are not very quiet anymore,
Right.
so,
That's for sure, right?
yes.
Do we have screens upstairs now, or they're?
We only have one directly behind the desk, so there are a few embedded throughout as we've moved around. So for example, in the front area, they will have a screen where it can advertise, upcoming book sale and things like that for them. There's one in the lobby area that we went past. There's this one in the kids area that could just focus on specifically family and children's programs. During
Could
this-
also be used
during story
Story
time,
time?
yep, yeah, during story time, it could have a visual or, I don't know, fireplace, whatever, on there. So we are embedding screens throughout too.
But none of them will be cable or anything.
No, so if you look at the one at the circulation desk, it's used to advertise programs and services. That's what we're kind of embedding throughout the building.
Nice.
there, and then to add to that, there would, like I mentioned in the beginning, there will be a screen in that telehealth room dedicated for that type of use. I mean, if somebody needed to go on the internet too and use that, they could. Again, this area is intended to be kind of playful, fun, but yet have a lot of different seating areas and different opportunities for activities, reading, and all those other items.
And if we can pause right
I
here,
can. I gotta go back to it, that's a
In-
little slow.
In this area, unless we moved it, are putting 2 public computers within the kids' area. So that way they can be used obviously by kids, but you know, parents, if you're like, you got your kid and you're like, oh, play for a little bit, and you just need to do a little quick searching, print something off, just to make it a little bit more accessible.
So not card catalogs, the other kind.
Yeah,
Correct, public use computers, yep. There will be a cat in there.
so maybe just to address a couple of the questions that were raised. So we've got OPACs here and here on the adult side. Children's side. I did not label that one, I thought there was one right, thought it was gonna be here, so we've gotta get that labeled. And then, as you said, there's a computer table, for that type of use, the monitor, different seating areas.
Well, is one enough over there? Because I mean, school-age kids use them too. Is one enough on the children's side? Or do you think people
For the-
who use
for the
catalogs,
pack?
hard catalogs?
Yeah, you know, I think one is enough, given how the kids know the collection better than the adults do a lot of the time. They know exactly where their books are when they
Yeah.
want the specific, but also a lot of times they stop by the desk, and we encourage that. They
Okay.
want us to look it up for
Okay.
them. But, you know, if we find that we need another, we can certainly add another.
Or the parent is looking up their books while they're over there.
Yes, yes.
And then as Alex mentioned, there is a kind of when we took the video, we walked kind of through here, but there's these additional seating areas down the center, and we have.
Purple's nice.
There we go.
No?
No, I don't have a great image of that, I apologize. But something similar to this in the center space.
Who develops these images for us?
Me and my team did, so we have Laura, who's the interior designer for my team, picks all the colors and finishes, and certainly works with Alex and her team to get those picked out, very collaborative process. And then, we get, like anybody, all these young people, right, I use that term, I think, is that okay in this room? They're just computer whizzes, right, they make these videos in like an hour. I remember when I first started, that was like a 4-day deal.
That's
And-
nice.
I will say one thing we didn't touch on in the adult area too, if you find the one that had the furniture, we also still have an area for public use computers. It is those four, yep, right where the hand is,
Yeah.
those four right there. So we've just kind of split them a little bit based off usage, because we do track the usage of the individual computers.
Great, wow, this is fantastic.
It's amazing.
Just, wow. You guys have done amazing work in a very short period of time.
I can't wait to see finished product.
Yeah, us too.
You still don't intend to use those stairs, that other set of stairs so much, right?
Yeah. I mean, emergency use, but
Yeah.
no, we don't want to funnel people back that way.
Do we have a thought of a month that this would start?
Yeah, so maybe I could just take a second and talk about what we've got for a schedule. We're wrapping up the drawings here, they'll be done in early April. Then we're working with Alan and MSA to develop the bidding period, so that's about a 4-week period, gets us to, if you will, kind of end of April, early May. Bids will be received. Then, assuming everything bids the way we expect it to, there'll be an award, and the goal is to start construction June 15th.
Great.
That's per the grant,
Yeah.
that's something has to be.
July 1 is an absolute start. We're having what we call an early start, just to make sure, right?
I have a question.
Absolutely.
Do you have some firms in mind that are interested in bidding on this?
Yeah, we
So
do.
you have some people that you've contacted, there's
I haven't made those contacts yet. I usually wait till it's bidding, but I mean, we've had really good success right now.
okay.
We've got a couple other library projects that we're doing right now, some of which also have these similar grant requirements, and we just, Niederkorn is the library in Port Washington, we just had their contractor walk through during the bidding process, and we had almost 45 people there, 6 different general contractors and then some mechanical contractors. I'll be honest, that was a big number. I'm not used to seeing that, so that was a really good sign.
Will our amount attract a good amount?
I think it will.
Okay.
A project like this that has a lot of indoor work is always great to have.
Right.
I think the phased approach is consistent, so you know that, June 15th, for roughly another 12 months or so, you've got consistent work. I feel good about it. You never know till you bid, but I think it's a project that will lend itself to getting good bids and getting a lot of participation. I know that one of the contractors that I know in the Fond du Lac area, Cardinal, is interested in this, so I
Oh,
know.
they're doing our DPW.
Yeah.
And that's what I was just gonna add, there's a lot of contractors in town right now doing work, even for the city, and we're bidding out other projects that have, elements that they can work on and add to, so I think there's a lot of interest and understanding that this project is coming forward.
I mean, I would even add, you had the DPW building, you had the Boys and Girls Club, you had the senior center, you have, recently you've had a lot of new buildings in the area. I think there's, and I guess I don't know all the bidding results from those.
DPW had 5 bids, so I mean, that's huge
Yeah.
for a project.
So I think it's been fairly competitive in this area. There's enough draw from even Madison to Fond du Lac to the Fox cities that it's a big enough project. I think there'll be a lot of interest.
The other thing that I think is good about the bidding timing is we're still probably a little bit early for some of the summer work. We're probably right in that realm, but I think we're gonna go on the streets, if you will, to use that phrase, at the right time.
Once you start, the project takes about a year, you figure.
I think I don't remember what the grant is. Does it have to be closed out by the end of next year?
Yeah, we have to be done by September of '26, so we start by July 1 of '25, finish by September of '26. We're looking for about a year, roughly, is kind of how we have it figured out. And we've worked with Alex and her team to figure out the phasing so that we still allow them, for instance, like this room during the summer, so that they can maximize their summer activities, I'm sure.
And that's not to say a contractor may not be able to do it quicker, obviously following the phasing layout, but I mean, if the contractor really wants to get in here and this is their bread and butter, say in the winter or something like that, again, it's indoor work, so there's potential. I mean,
Any questions on the design at all? Otherwise, I just want to briefly touch base on budget, so.
Yeah.
Barry, you're liking it, huh?
It was, yes.
Okay, so, on
I
this,
think it's great.
go ahead, Mary.
No, I think it's great. I think the work you guys have done, the timing, the working with Alex and the staff, of course, the support of the city in all of this. I mean, I couldn't be more pleased with how this has come together, and appreciate everything you guys have done for us. And it's exciting, super exciting.
Yeah, I thank you for the comments, first of all, but I will share your excitement. I think that what this design has become really is something that's gonna be great for the library.
And you're liking it, Alex,
Yes, yeah.
you had input all along.
Yes, yeah, and like Jason mentioned, our adult services and youth services and CERC supervisor have all been at every single meeting. And so as we start looking towards the furniture aspects, it is my plan to pull in the rest of staff, so we make sure that we're aligned. And very briefly, I went up to Appleton Public Library to check out their new building and stuff, and that's something that I would say that they regret that they didn't do, and pulling in all their staff at some point. Not to throw them under the bus, but they've got some chairs that don't hold the weight of all their staff, and so we don't want to find ourselves in similar circumstances on those things, and make sure everything flows well.
Good.
So, we're excited about it.
I believe this document was shared with you, but this is the latest budget that we've developed with help from contractor input, our input, MSA's input, and I feel really good about it. I feel comfortable with it. That being said, we're calling it a design development budget, so that's just our phrase for where we were in the design process when we assembled this budget. And essentially it's broken down into a couple different elements. Architecture, which is kind of the built elements, plumbing, HVAC, mechanical. When I use that acronym, everybody knows what that is.
That was another question I had. We've been getting lots of maintenance stuff from J&H. We briefly talked about this. Will that help control those kinds of costs because we're putting, is it all new or mostly new?
Mostly new is probably the better word,
Okay.
best way to describe it.
We're gonna get rid of the older stuff.
You were getting rid of older stuff, we're getting rid of older equipment, we're rebuilding equipment, replacing electrical panels that aren't any good, all sorts of stuff like that. I can go through some of the details. Electrical, security, we've got some costs in for security, and then the site, and then our budget also included expenses associated with building permits, the survey that Dan and his team did, design fees, fixtures and furnishings, and we actually, if you went to page 2 that we assembled, there was a whole breakdown of how that was developed. We do a lot of furniture work, so feel really good about that. And then obviously, at this, maybe not obviously, obvious to me, maybe not obvious to you, we still include what we call contingency. So
Right.
that's unforeseens, added scope between the end of the design development and construction documents and the like, and then we're looking at about a 2.85 in round numbers total budget costs, and that's almost all the costs. There's a little bit of items that Alex has, that are library direct costs, but we've tried to incorporate as much in as to the costs as we can so that it's a big picture cost that we're looking at here.
What was the added construction work increased, your contingency was?
Yeah, so that changed from the last time we did the budget. There was the project.
That we didn't see necessarily.
Yeah, correct, but it increased on our end, and so we increased the contingency to correlate to the increase in the overall cost.
I do have another question.
Absolutely.
It seems frivolous, but it's not really. The director's office in the past has had bee infestation or wasp infestation. Can we fix that in this so that we don't have to have, she doesn't have a case of bee spray in her office too?
Yeah, I would hope that we will eliminate the bee spray as part of this.
I hope so too.
So yes.
I was not aware that was a problem. but
Some of it is the windows,
Yeah.
and there's some areas, and then obviously we've got some notes on the drawings to look at the above ceiling and patch some holes and that kind of
Okay.
Just real briefly, I don't wanna go through every line, but the architectural elements includes circ desk work, new finishes, demolition, and all of the kind of architectural elements. Plumbing, there is some track repair that was going to be done. Subsequently, you're seeing no cost there. What was done between the original budget and now is that Alan from the city worked, and we had every drain line camera. It's really an exciting video if you've ever watched it.
Very appetizing.
And so, to be honest, the pipes are in good shape, so what we believe is the case is some of the traps aren't being maintained, and what that is the actual U in the trap dries out. That's what causes some of that sewer smell to come back up through the piping, and so
I think we're addressing that with better access in some of those areas, moving some things, so I think one of the issues was there was a trap underneath something that you couldn't get to, so to put water down there was next to impossible.
And then generally speaking, the plumbing leading out of the building is good shape. There's something in the street that might be a concern down in the future, but that was noted by Alan, so the city is aware of it. But that's actually in the street itself. Go ahead.
No, we're not to the HVAC.
I was just gonna say, all new plumbing fixtures, new drinking fountain as we saw.
Oh, quickly,
Mhm.
is any possibility of putting a bottle filler? So-
It will have a bottle filler, yes.
Okay, I didn't catch that.
I didn't mention it, but to be honest, it's the only way we specify a drinking fountain or a bubbler these days.
Okay,
Thermostatic mixing valves, and you say, what is that? Well, really what's important about that is that'll start to provide a little bit more energy efficiency between your hot and cold water.
okay.
New domestic heating plant is a fancy word for saying new water heaters.
Okay.
So we're replacing some of those systems. On the HVAC side, I'm gonna make this a little bigger. The top line really is just the work that's being done as part of the remodel, so moving diffuser around, moving grills around as we change spaces. The air handlers in the building are getting completely rebuilt. One of the boilers is probably, in all frankness, has passed its life expectancy, so we're replacing that. Condensing equipment is being addressed. And then, as I said, some this bottom line is where the seat wall is currently on the kind of roadside. There's some grills in there that the HVAC system is actually fed through there, so that's some cost to deal with that as we rework those walls, take that purple and gold seating area out, and then where the new windows and door to the patio is, addressing those. Excuse me. On the electrical side, we have costs associated with the remodel. We have costs associated with that service panel that's being replaced that has the older breakers that, frankly, as I understand it, aren't even made anymore. So, taking care of that. Adding surge protection, that'll protect your equipment. Some connections to the boilers and to the panels and the like. All of the exterior lighting, so what I would call egress lighting, so above every door is a light fixture. Those all we're replacing with LED fixtures, a little more energy efficient. Upgrading exits is the new exit lights, and then just the additional receptacles that we're adding throughout the space, and we are replacing the fire alarm system. And as I mentioned, almost all the areas are getting new LED type light fixtures. Some are decorative, some are for use, but that's essentially throughout only spaces. Like I said, there's some real back house spaces.
Pretty comprehensive about this.
Security, there is some dollars in here for some new head-end equipment for security, and then card readers. I've actually, and I didn't even share this with you, I meant to, and I just haven't got that. I did put an allowance in the budget. We talked about the one card reader at the kind of the one door. I put an allowance if we wanted to pick up a couple more doors.
Sure.
If we don't, then that's just a savings that comes back, but added some of that. Data cabling, so we're providing cabling to some potential locations where security cameras could be added. The cameras would be a cost that's by outside of the scope of work, but that's all ready, so that could be plug and play, and whether that happens the day it's open or a little bit further down the road, at least you have that capacity. Civil is what we're describing, but that's basically all the costs associated with that walk area down to the creek, new sidewalks, new parking lot, rework drainage for the parking lot and the like. There's our, if you will, that's our construction cost. Some of these, again, these are reimbursable costs that are incurred during the process. And then design fees for ourselves, and then because we're over our original budget that we established, that's what you're seeing. And again, when I say established, we established that way back in probably October. So that's what that additional design fees, that's just really above and beyond the current contract amount, but it ties to our contract. And then again, next line is the furnitures, fixtures, furnishings. Again, I rounded that up from the breakdown below, and then we're assisting with furniture selection. Like you said, we don't want anything like you described. And also the fabrics, we want all the fabrics, we want it all to tie together, right? So that it's all a cohesive whole when it's done. We've got an allowance in just for different signage, whether it's new room signage, new directional signage, new signage associated with the collections, spaces, and then that also tie in. I know that there are a few items that we've been made aware of that there are dedicated donations to, so that there's those dollars are also available for the whichever family area, so we can highlight those.
Those naming rights.
Naming rights,
pledges.
thank you.
Good, yeah.
And then, as I mentioned, we're still carrying contingency, and then if there was to be spent, there's a design fee on that, but we're assuming and hoping that it won't be. We will probably reduce that contingency once we get the bids, but I would recommend never getting rid of that till the end. Placeholder, just who knows what you're gonna run into when you do a remodel. So we will reduce that dollar value, but we always suggest that you carry it during the duration of the project. And then again, that gets to our total budget cost.
Great. So 2.8 is, Adam, how much money do you have in your grant?
1.985
Okay,
million.
million, right, yes. So that means we're 865 over the amount of the grant based on this budget. Is that correct?
So generally speaking, if you look at everything, the contingency is where this is pushing it over, you know, above and beyond.
Okay. Sure.
You know, if you eliminated that, you're looking at more like 2.6.
Okay.
So you're about 600,000-700,000 on the estimate. Generally speaking, you know, you're not gonna know until you bid. We've gone through this project now for the last few months. We started higher than this number, we scaled it back, we went back in, and you know, I think from my perspective, based on the grant and the overall funding the library has to contribute, once we bid this out, we'll be comfortable. It's just, you know, if anything unforeseen major happens, or if you start adding too much, you kind of want to close this out and get this done. I talked to Alex a little bit too. The grant is a reimbursement. So generally speaking, you apply back to the state with paid bills, and then, you know, 2-3 weeks later, they reimburse back. So we've talked a little bit about that, Alex and I, about how that would work. And in your phasing of the project, I think financially it makes sense to use the funds of the library to pay those bills and then submit back to the grant and then reimburse. And continue on that. You know, I don't think at any point with the budget at 2 to 2.8 million, you're gonna ever be having to spend more than $500,000-600,000 a time at a pay application. That's pretty heavy. So you can float those, the money will come back. And then, you know, sort of the last dollars in are the library's, you know, contribution to it. We have started receiving bills for design work and things of that nature. So we're tracking all of that. But generally speaking, you know, this is a comfortable number with the contingency. And I talked to Jason about this a little bit. I think we generally estimate high. And best case scenario is this number lowers. Worst case, I still think we can get it done if it were to go this high, particularly without the contingency.
Yeah, like I said, I feel good about the budget. Obviously, the next milestone really is getting the bids and taking this number right here, the total construction cost, and knowing what exactly that is. That'll help us obviously to then determine what's left for furniture, fixture, equipment, and all these other things that, if you will, are below that number. Also help understand cash flow as you're describing. I think the easiest way to think about it is, let's knock on wood and assume that this, just for the sake of some easy math, the project comes in at like 2 million or like 2.1. The project was 10-11 months long. There's about, usually on a remodel, it's fairly consistent, so you can think about 200 to 250 every month. And as Adam described, you know, you're gonna pay, contractors are gonna bill you. You'll probably be able to start your reimbursement process. You'll have to pay them within 30 days, and then hopefully your reimbursement will follow, and that'll continue. And then I think you summed it up well, Adam.
Okay.
Question you may not know the answer to, I'll just say, I don't know how to word things. Is there any, is this money sitting in the state budget, or is there any chance it could be clawed back from?
Yeah, so the grant agreement that the city signed and approved, we received, it took the state, I would say, 2-3 extra months, and Jason went through this in another community. They inserted language about any federal action, including executive orders, that could claw back the money. They have put that in the grant contract. There has been no indication. We're working with MSA to manage the grant because there are reporting requirements, there are sustainability requirements that we've been working on to with the grant, right? There's no indication that this money is going to be clawed back. There's no indication, because it's already here. It's already,
Is it in the state?
Yes, it's
Okay.
already at the state
I mean,
level.
that's
It
all-
doesn't mean
Yeah.
that something crazy
Exactly.
wouldn't happen, and that's why there was a delay of about 3 to 4 months in the contract. So, you know, that, Jason and I talked about worst case scenario, you know, is the grant goes away and this project gets shrunk dramatically. But we at least have the basis of a project to do. So, there's a bit of a gamble there, but I wouldn't say that.
And especially if we were halfway done, that would be the biggest gamble, is that we're, 9 months from now, this happens,
If they do
right?
that would be really, really, really bad.
Okay,
Yeah.
If we have signed contracts, we have to stay on pace, right? That's the biggest thing, we gotta get this moving. And there's been a lot of work by Alex and her staff that, we just did a DPW building, which was overwhelming and took a year to plan out. This has been done in 3-4 months. And the collaboration of her staff getting input has been, I think, very important. So, from here, if this is acceptable, we would move this project forward. And there would be probably a little bit brief of a presentation to the Common Council, just to share this is the plan, give them kind of an overview, and go to bid in April, just so everybody's on board. When it comes to the process of the project, I would assume that pay applications would come to this board, and the library board would authorize it, and we work it through that way. The Common Council wouldn't necessarily need to get involved in that. If the library is kind of the funding mechanism as we go, and we would work with you administratively to reimburse. So, but getting the Common Council on board too, if you guys are good with it, I think it indicates to them that we're moving this forward and we need to move, and there's been a lot of work here, so. But it all could come undone.
Yeah,
but at this point, none of us think the risk is too high than to plunge ahead. Obviously you plunge ahead, right?
You go, because
What are we gonna do?
it's better to go and to meet the grant deadlines than to give them an excuse
Right.
and pause
Let's
and
jump
give them an
in.
excuse.
Who keeps track of if we're meeting budget in each line item?
So generally speaking, this would be your monthly meetings. The pay applications would come in, they'd be reviewed by staff, the city can review them, Alex can review them. They'll forward them to you as a board, say, hey, here's the budget, here's where we're pulling from, here's the request. So, monthly or every other month, there'd be a pay application, generally speaking, and we would, go from there and pay it out, and then work on reimbursement right following that.
I
So,
think it's good we're working with the city,
Absolutely. Yeah.
on this.
So Adam, on the reimbursement then, that's the process under the grant whereby you guys go back to the state of Wisconsin with the amount of money that was handled in the pay app, and you ask for that to be funded? Is
Yep.
that how it works?
Yep, correct, and they may have some retainage out at the end where they say we wanna see the project 100% complete. It's very similar to what we call CDBG projects, so it's not, they're modeling it after other programs at the Department of Administration. So MSA we're paying them to manage that grant. So
Okay.
they'll work through that, and it's about a 2-3 week leg. We'll have to set up an account that's non-interest bearing, and they land the money there, and then we would just forward it back to wherever you all want it to go to repay whatever was paid out. The
And then
biggest
that
thing,
cycle
yeah,
keeps
it's
going.
just a cycle, and we'd be asking you to essentially use your fund balance to carry it in lieu of the city having to go borrow money to make pay applications and paying interest or things like that. I also have a $10 million project we're completing right now, so I'm not really in a position to do too much more there. So we would just ask that you guys kind of work through that with us, and should be pretty simple, just based on past experience we've had.
Okay. So do you need something from us tonight, or what are you looking for us to do?
Well, I have my, I think Alex and Jason, everybody would like, hey, this looks good.
We said that.
Can we
Yeah,
move?
it's a home run.
Can
It's
we-
a home run.
Can we move forward? I think that would be the biggest thing with the proposed design and budget, to keep this moving along. That would be just, and then, we gotta keep going. There may be some changes, but generally speaking, I would say, Jason, if I'm right, 95% of the work besides little changes here and there is done.
from a design standpoint, I'd like to think we're done.
Yeah,
There are probably a few
Yeah.
items that aren't 100% done, but our, next kind of 3-4 weeks, if you will, is getting the bid documents ready, so we can get the drawings out, get them bid, and then confirm this 2.1 number, and if all goes well, maybe it's a little bit less.
Yep.
Okay.
Good, this looks
Oh.
good.
So I'm wondering, and Doug, maybe you can speak more to this, do we need to make a motion at this point that says that we, are in agreement with the design that was presented and the budget that was presented, and that we approve the process of moving into the construction bid process, and that we're in agreement with what we've seen tonight? Does this need to be a formal motion that we make as a board?
We don't have that as an action item tonight.
I know we don't, but
what is
Well,
the
it
agenda
means-
item?
It is an agenda item
Okay, that's,
to
Have it
look at the
presented.
presentation
Yep.
and then to vote on paying the invoice.
that one invoice that came.
Yeah.
Oh,
That's all we have.
So
Well, we
I
didn't
don't
have-
see that as an action item.
Right.
We can
oh,
certainly,
I don't know if I,
And you weren't really asking for a motion, were you? You were asking for
Well,
us to
I-
say we generally agree?
well, we don't need it done
I-
tonight, we can do it next meeting, put that
yeah, the
on.
biggest thing is going
in
to
a
the,
month,
going to the common council on the 8th with a presentation, just saying that the library board has reviewed and has been, generally agreed. A
Yeah,
motion-
I'll be happy to do that.
Yeah,
You
we
know,
generally
that's,
agree.
yeah, that's fine, I mean,
generally agree, okay. Yeah, otherwise we could have another meeting, a special meeting, a short meeting before you're talking about April 8th, you're going to council? Adam?
that's the.
Yes.
Jason will have a short presentation, just giving a broad overview, so.
Okay, well, you guys, I mean, you can head out, I mean, we'll figure this out in the next few minutes here, what we're gonna do, but know
Yeah,
that
you
we're
just
on
speak.
board.
It's all good.
Thank you, guys.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah,
Yeah, you're welcome.
that was fantastic, thank you so much,
Thank
yeah,
you.
Thanks, Adam.
we're excited, yeah, we're
We
excited.
are too. Yeah, it was real clear,
Thanks.
very clear.
Thank you.
And Alan, thank you guys for coming, and Jason and Dan, we appreciate all that time tonight, thank you.
Yeah, not a problem. Excited for you all. I mean, I think we've really got a great design here. I think it's really gonna reinvigorate the space, and excited for you all. Thank you.
Thank you for presenting.
Sure, yeah, just in case. Only have one.
Jason, do you start with the original blueprints, or do you start from scratch when you set up drawings?
So we actually model everything, so we took the original existing drawings and then actually built, as you saw as we walked through, a three-dimensional model of the building,
Yeah, that was-
and then
yeah.
go from there.
You start with the original.
But we did start with the original and some measurements. We were in
Thanks,
for
guys.
a day and a half.
Have a good night.
Good job.
Do you have all your tech stuff? I'm not sending on any.
I
of your-
think I have my text.
Okay.
It's all replaceable.
Well, if not, we'll be back too.
That's right, I'm back.
Oh, yeah, you-
Thursday.
in there.
Yes, that's right.
Works, so it looks nicer.
There you go.
Thanks, Jason. Have a good night.
But
Nice meeting you all.
Night.
Bye.
good night, Jason.
All right,
Right.
let's get this.
We lost
Good luck
Mary.
with that teenager,
Yeah.
15
She
years.
walked away with me. Mary!
Maybe
I'm back. Let's get some water. Okay, I feel like the rest of this agenda, I don't know, I feel like this is a lot tonight to then go on and tackle the rest of this. What are you guys feeling?
I think we need to go through the action items at least. The vote, we gotta make the payment for the invoice, and I think we need to vote on the Volter Estate next step, so we need to
Okay.
at least do the action items.
Yeah.
But we can be fast.
I was gonna say, I can speed run.
We can be fast.
I think we can be
Okay,
done pretty
just do it.
quickly.
Okay.
Let's have the goal that we're gonna be done in
Half hour.
20 minutes.
20
Half
minutes.
hour. 20
Sounds good.
minutes, okay. Okay, we need a motion to approve the minutes from the February 18th board meeting.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes from the February 18th board meeting.
Second.
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Okay, 100%. Okay, director's report.
Yes, so some of this can be speed run because I did put it in, your packets, but as a general overview, sorry, bear with me, I am pulling it up so I don't miss anything. I attended the Friends board meeting, in March. They've essentially, they're complying with everything that the auditor suggested. So they do not wanna be a component unit, so they are not audited. So, sorry, I'm trying to find the exact verbiage. They want to hand over the copier, to the library. So they would no longer pay the maintenance costs, but they would no longer receive the revenue. So I've been working with the city finance director as far as what our next steps are on that. So we can get that all set up. Likewise, the goal is to streamline, the money we accept at the desk. Also working with the city finance director on that. Right now we use the Friends Square account for all payments. We need it to be running through the city is essentially what the auditor determined on all of that. So the Friends have done everything that they need to do at this point, to get that put forward. They would like a memorandum of understanding in place that they can still use the copier for free to make their print jobs, and you know, I don't have
Is
a
the
problem with that.
copier a machine that we can continue using after the renovation? It's in good.
Yes, that is what goes into that, sorry, I don't know, I'm pointing up there, it's not up there anymore. The business center that's still that same copier. Technically, I did pull the contract and everything, it is in the library's name, not in the Friends. They just funded it all these years. So that component is seamless.
They thought they owned it. And so it was a surprise to them that they paid for it, but we actually own it. It's in the library's name. So that's the reason for the need for this memorandum of understanding.
It's about
Correct.
$200 a month
Yeah.
maintenance.
You know, off the top of my head, I don't know, because they've been handling it all these years. They just cut the invoice. I do know that they are making money off of it, and so it goes towards programming costs right now. You know, that's something we could discuss once I have next steps in place on how we want to use that revenue. It would be my personal preference we put that towards programming, but I think we'd have to discuss and vote on that.
I think we gotta find out how much it is first.
Yes, yeah,
Yeah.
and I can get those numbers from Debbie. But first, gotta get the things put in place at the city with running the finances. They also did agree to cut checks for programming to the library as designated donations. And those will be run through the city. So instead of us having a separate Amazon account with them where program purchases are made, everything goes through the city, and I code that invoice and say, this comes out of the donations from the Friends. So again, just keeping everything flowing through, and above board and how the auditors want to, yeah.
They'll still take specific requests for a grant for a thing that Linda wants that wasn't in there?
So what they're
Or
going,
is it a budget and we get X much?
it is a budget, and it is my understanding that is currently how it is with maybe sometimes they ask for a little bit more staff for programs. So they have to have one more meeting, I believe next week, to finalize their budget. They do have a proposed number, they just have to vote on it. And then I can take that number and we can say, hey, this is how much we're doing towards children's and adults, and Susie, Linda, and I will get that all straightened out, and then can just flow from there.
So the grants will come at what frequency? Like, how do you get the money from them?
Yes, that is also something that they need to determine. You know, it comes down to however they wanna do it is
Okay.
fine. We just kind of,
Right.
and the goal is to put that in that memorandum of understanding
Interesting,
too,
but-
yeah.
Are we on target? Mary, want to finish around 7, you think?
No, let's keep going.
Let's
So, yeah, keep going.
Okay,
22 minutes.
so next component is an update on the Volker estate. As far as the house goes, I don't have an update other than to say that the city attorney and Adam are still working on next steps for that. Getting that all straightened out paperwork wise. I did meet with the city attorney yesterday. And he kind of laid out what next steps were, sent me over to HorrorCon. There were several, accounts and CDs, and so I do have a check that has been cut to the library, and that is why it is an action item to vote as far as how we want to proceed with that. And Mary, do you have?
Tell them how much,
Okay.
tell them how much it is.
Okay, 256,070.25.
Besides the
That's how much
house?
money we got.
That is
250.
the money from the banking account. We have not touched the house
250,000,
yet.
that's a lot.
So the house will
Yeah.
be extra
Yes.
after they sell it?
Yes.
And the house.
But
And the
to consider with this is there are some back taxes and of course whatever fees associated with selling the house or auctioning or whatever next
That's
steps are.
not gonna be much, the back taxes, that's not gonna be.
So
Isn't that amazing? That's
Yeah.
amazing.
Glad you told
We
us.
need to get his name on the wall somewhere.
yes.
Right.
Yes, he should
We
be
could name it the
named
Volcker
the name
Room.
of, like the children's library or something,
Yeah.
but that much, I don't know,
And that's
something really.
Definitely something more
significant.
to discuss because in passing we
Yeah.
would love to update the romper room. That's a great space
Yeah.
for that. So
Yeah.
Memorial sign.
Yeah.
yep, absolutely.
Very nice.
Yeah, so it's incredible. So we have to decide, what we want to do with the 256, we'd like to get the check deposited, obviously.
Right.
And,
Well, it's still
given the
city, right?
conversation tonight with what we've learned and the need for this cash flow that we're, you understand that we're gonna be funding these draws, waiting to get paid back, and then, so we're gonna have a need for more than the $500,000 that we have allocated to spend. We're gonna be funding the payment stream, and you guys understand how that's gonna work.
Right,
We're
but
gonna
it's
put it
all,
up-
it's in the foundation now, right? The money.
The Oshkosh.
So why don't we
No.
just put it with it? This is all in the foundation at this point in time, the
Right.
500, and we should put this with it and then decide.
Well,
How to
but
spend
the
it.
question is, okay, hold on, no. If we stick it into renovation, then we're making a decision today that that's all going towards the renovation.
No, I
As
think,
opposed to,
My
if we,
question
just
was-
give me on, Janet, hang on.
Bryce, in a hurry.
No, I'm not. I need to hear what Mary's saying. Go ahead.
Yeah, we have two places where we could set the money. We could put it into our general fund undesignated for now. And then as we have a chance to process all this money and figuring out overall what is our plan, how would we like to use this sum of money, then as we need it, if we made a decision, not just a decision tonight, because we got a $256,000 check we need to deposit. We want to put it to work, we want it to be in a higher earning, totally liquid account, so high-paying money market. My recommendation would be stick it in our general money, not in the renovation money yet. Let it reside there until we have a better idea, and then we can always make a motion to move all or part of it into the renovation. But it's like, kind of feeling like you're under the gun. I don't want to go down a path that restricts us. Once you stick it in the renovation, then you're saying that's what it's for.
I agree. I keep it undesignated for now, if he's in the general fund. I agree with you. I mean, we just found out about this. We
Correct.
don't want to commit
Today,
it.
yesterday.
So question, the general fund is the city, that is not what you're talking about, right?
No, so at Oshkosh.
Foundation, you're talking about putting it in the foundation.
Yeah, but we have two
Our
funds
money
there.
is at Oshkosh. We have two funds at the Oshkosh Foundation.
Right, but
We
you
have
never said that, you said
general fund.
general fund, which is the city. We're not gonna leave it
No.
sit in the city, right?
No.
Okay,
No,
thank you.
I'm not talking about the city, Janet. I'm saying our general funds at Oshkosh.
And it is
that are
called the
not
general
renovated.
fund at
There's
Oshkosh.
two then,
Yeah.
okay.
We have
Thank you.
two
Thank you,
funds
Ellen.
there, renovation and non-renovation money. So we have an undesignation, we have our general fund there has 5 parts to it.
Let's go.
You want us to vote on this?
Make a motion.
We need a motion.
I move that we put it in the account that Mary said. which would be the non-renovation fund with the OACF.
I second the motion.
I was gonna say, if you want
Okay.
exact verbiage, it is called the general fund, so it'd be the
At the
OACF
so
general
not at the
fund.
city.
But-
Yeah.
Right.
And then, and the undesignated part of that fund, because there's other designated funds inside the fund.
Yes,
remember?
undesignated.
So, okay, so, you wanna read that back, Al, somebody, or, we have a motion and a second. So, put it in the Oshkosh Area Community Foundation, non-designated monies, in a high interest earning money market account, so totally liquid account,
Yes,
not in, and that'll be the temporary resting place for it. Does that sound correct?
yes.
All in favor, say aye.
I,
I'm sorry, who
Anyone
seconded
opposed?
on that
Yeah,
one?
who seconded it?
Okay.
Okay, thank you, I didn't hear that either.
Thank you, Lisa.
Okay, great, we're good, perfect, okay. Isn't that exciting, though, all
Yes.
that money?
Yes. Now, did someone say there's more than just the 250,000 associated with the sale of this?
Yeah, we sold the
Then
house,
there's
yeah.
the sale of the house, too.
So where'd the 250 come from?
That's just their cash from
CDs and checking accounts.
Wow, that's great.
I know,
Money.
from his savings, from all of his savings, it's amazing, okay.
We can have a Janet Bosco room too.
No, I didn't do a thing.
We gotta have a Volker or something area
something.
there, somehow, we have to really, yeah. The other item that we have to vote on is you guys have in your packet, the
Question.
latest, oh yeah,
So Alex also had this letter. Did you want to attend this thing?
Very briefly, just to touch on, I am going to it. It is paid
Okay,
for by the
alright,
state.
okay,
It was kind of
good.
a general knowledge. I will not be here on those
I thought you were
days.
asking for money, thank you. Okay,
Nope,
we're good.
nope. I just wanted you aware that it is a great thing the
Okay.
state is doing in there.
Is this different from the Webster's thing you're going to
Yes.
tomorrow?
What's next tomorrow?
That's
Well,
the
wait a
Foundation,
second.
Webster's
That's-
Foundation.
Okay,
That's done.
yeah, yes, we'd already done
Yeah,
that. Yep.
that
You've
was,
already done that?
that was a week ago.
Yes,
too.
yeah, we received, I believe that was last board meeting, a grant towards baby bounce and the experience passes. So that all went well and
Good.
okay. We have a renovation invoice from Plunkett, from the PRA folks. The latest invoice is $49,441. It's basically what you saw tonight. That's what we're paying for, is all the work that those guys have put in, they and MSA, so it's all wrapped together as one design fee.
Could you repeat the number again, please, Mary?
49,441.
441.79.
49,000?
Yes.
$441.79. So we need a motion.
I'll make a motion.
Doug had, yeah, okay. Doug,
I'll make a motion that we pay PRA $49,441.79 for work they've done up to the state.
I second.
Okay, so, Lisa, all in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? No, okay, awesome. Probably, Alex, anything else besides the financials that we need to talk about?
Not
Would
off
like
the
to,
top.
like to talk.
Not off the top of my head. I mean, the statistics are in there, so if you had any questions, I'm happy to answer those. Nothing abnormal about the numbers or that I'm concerned about. Moving into the financials briefly, I'll just say there is an invoice you'll see for a barcode scanner that came out of our Winnifox tech fund. It had exposed wires, so it had to be replaced.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so we, in the financial side, we'll have our two-page monthly report. We also have the check run that is part of our monthly report. And then, I don't know, maybe I just missed it. I did not see the OACF report.
Oh,
I didn't see it either.
oh, interesting. I
That's
apologize.
okay.
I missed sliding them in there.
Yeah, I
Um,
did too, Alex. I didn't notice it until today and I thought, well,
I did wonder about it, but I thought, well,
It's not gonna be good news anyway, so.
no.
well, you could definitely, send those out, so.
Okay, thanks.
okay. Did anybody have any questions on the financials or on the check run? I know Doug, you had one on that.
G&H,
G&H.
I just wondered what it was for, and, which is why I brought that up with PRA, of updating,
Yeah.
mostly updating all the stuff that would cut back on that kind of stuff.
Sure.
1,000 here, 1,000 there, and, you know.
Yeah, it'll add up. So, what's everybody's feeling about, the need to have a meeting before those guys go to present to the Common Council on the 8th? Do we need
No
to
meeting.
have another meeting?
I don't think we do.
No.
We could do all that next meeting. We could, set up anything that we need to do to, do the payment system, all that. Because they're not even bidding it out until end of
Okay.
April.
Right.
Okay. Is there any other things that came out of that presentation that people are concerned about or?
I
feel
appreciate
is-
appreciate your having them here. I thought it was well organized the way you and Alex set this up with them
Oh,
presenting.
that's Alex. Yeah, Alex has been working hand in glove with those folks. I mean, and with the staff, and I think it's amazing that all this is done this quickly.
And you guys
So,
did
I mean,
well.
Yeah, it was.
That's
job.
Alex.
Thank you.
Yeah,
And it's been
yeah.
very helpful to have Adam and Alan at all those meetings, you know, especially Alan weighing in on some of the outdoor, landscaping. There we go. My brain was blanking.
What's his last
yeah.
name? Alan?
Yeah.
Yeah.
He was there.
Alan was not here
Oh,
tonight.
he wasn't.
Alan is the
Yeah.
Public Works
Mhm.
Director. Yeah. Yes. So weighing in on kind of the outdoor, because, you know, at the end of the day, they're who mow it and keep track of it. And with the no-grow, it sounds like there's a little bit of maintenance, but it's what he prefers long-term and says will look really great out there.
So you wanted to know if we had any other questions, Mary?
Yeah, or concerns or anything. Janet, you've spent so many years in the library. I mean, what was your reaction?
I thought it was wonderful. I thought, especially
Oh.
since she got the staff buy-in, it's really up to them, it's not up to me. And I thought as a patron, Doug and I were looking at things as patron, we look like we'd love it. I think
Good.
I'll help you design your furniture though.
There you
Your
go.
Furniture for $20,000, okay? Really, but just a joke, that was a joke.
Yeah, right.
This is gonna be kind of commercial grade furniture, kind of like we put in the senior center and the
So with
DPW building.
with the furniture, we truly haven't talked about it yet. You know, the way everything is set up, it won't have to go to bid. We will fund it directly. So that's the next step for us with the staff and looking at it, and that is something I really want everyone to weigh in on. Because I feel bad, but I specifically went to Appleton to ask them about their furniture and their, you know, the PR and marketing side of things with the renovation, and they had to bid out. It was 8 separate suppliers, and they have an entire fleet of chairs that have all broke already.
Oh, no.
And they're having to replace.
Oh,
So I think the way we're doing it is going to really give us the option to get good stuff.
So when we did the purchase for the DPW buildings furniture, we went with steel case. Yeah, it's more money, but we're not replacing stuff every 2 years.
Sure.
Right.
It's like we did at the
Right.
senior center, we had commercial grade stuff, and you could certainly ask the furniture people in the area, they're not gonna carry that kind of stuff. And it's stuff to be used all the time, and people get a little, maybe kids climb on or something like that. This is not your household furnishing stuff. This stuff is gonna last, like the
Right.
steel case stuff at the DPW building, 25 to 40 years, and that's still gonna look nearly as good as the day that we bought it. Those chairs are gonna last for a decade. We're not gonna be replacing stuff every couple of years.
And
That's
we,
good.
Well, that's
we'll
the
be,
benefit of working with them, is
Yes.
to have them, would help to position you to look at the right vendors for the quality and the longevity
Good
of what
point.
you want.
Done.
Yeah,
and that was what I was gonna mention too, Mary, is that we're specifically working with PRA's interior designer, and, you know, it's like, we have kind of the household furniture right now upstairs on a lot of it, and we want the stuff that lasts, that can be hopefully not, but can be vomited on and cleaned up if it
And
needs to be, you
lice
know?
proof, lice proof, too. She wasn't around. for
Yes,
that.
I've heard about that.
Yeah,
Yes. So their recommendations and what they work with other libraries and other spaces, and from Adam and everything he's had to say about them and how well they work with the city, I have confidence they'll help us pick out some good stuff.
Yeah, cool. Well, you know, it is gonna probably mean more money from us. I mean, to me, that's pretty, between paying for the furniture, which we have to pay for, it's not part of, right? That can't be funded.
yeah, that's not part of the grant, I don't think.
You know, that'll be part of our funding. But there's a very good chance that $250,000 contingency that we have, that we're gonna need to use that. The money that we had set, remember we spent 500 of the 750? Or we allocated or committed that to the budget. So I think there's a good chance we're gonna get into that, but then we now have this new money.
Right.
And the money, the house sale, which Alex and I have talked about the fact that it would be really nice to totally have that romper room redone.
I would like to put in a word for more stuff outside, if we have money.
And that is
Sort of this phase 2 kind of thing, what could we do after this?
Oh, you mean out
Yeah,
there?
outside.
Because we have been working with PRA to look at the furniture component of what goes out
Oh,
here.
no, I mean to do something back there that makes it more usable.
For
It's
example-
not gonna be very usable except to look at, this plan.
But the sidewalk will get us back from the road.
No, not down to
Sit
the
on the
water.
patio, but
Not
to
the
sit on the
water, right,
patio.
just to
you'll
the
be able to
patio,
sit
yeah.
on.
So I would love to see us,
We are looking for right out this window, putting some furniture out there. The goal is to make it as a flexible programming space too. So the children's librarian
Right.
does story time and stuff out there. Some of that, and I'm still learning, is I am curious how much of that is really under the library's purview. You know, how far down to the creek do we go?
right, no, I'm just
Yeah.
saying, if it could be more useful
sure.
for people
For
to
sure.
actually access that water, that would be,
Absolutely.
I think, that was the original goal of the original plan.
Sure, yeah, my question
Back
is
to
just
that.
if that's technically city or is us, and
Now, we
definitely
haven't
something I
had
can
problems
investigate.
with people getting stuck in the water or wet or falling. Do we wanna have a lot of traffic by the water, or is that something we don't need?
Well, it was always there before, when you could get down there, and we
Oh,
never had
oh,
any
you never
issues
had
with
any-
it.
Mm.
People were in and out all the time and playing.
Okay,
kids were
good.
playing.
Well,
We
it's
never
pretty,
had-
it's a beautiful area to
Yeah, we
live.
never had anybody get hurt or anything like that,
Be nice to use it.
Yeah.
but,
Definitely
Well,
something to look at.
I think as they described today, that given the 15-month window of this
Right.
grant and
right. But if
close
we
out,
save some off,
it would be it'd be a longer term project, yeah, but certainly could be something on the wish list of things to look at. Yes,
I think we still have some outstanding, pledges and stuff. How are we coming with that? Is that something that we should be talking about more? Because, I just wanna make sure that we're able to do this project, I believe we are. But I just wanna make sure that, if someone pledged some money, and I'm not saying we put the thumb screws to them or anything like that, because, people, they pledge things and they don't always have the money at that time. But to encourage them, because we have plans for the back part of the library and the outside and stuff like that. Would you care to keep, making good on your pledges, keep pledging that, because we're gonna use it for something, and would you like to be associated with that?
I believe I discussed it a couple meetings back, but we did, our largest outstanding pledge was the Oshkosh. They did complete that, so we have received that. We have a list, and I have been keeping track of it on our outstanding. That's something Ben
Okay.
worked on in the interim, but a big portion of that is primarily the 100 extraordinary women. And so some of those, their pledges won't finish for a few years.
Right, that's perfectly fine, and I just wanna publicly say, I do appreciate all those ladies that, jumped on board with Jody when she was fundraising for us, and, pledged forward that they're gonna support us in this, and I just wanna encourage them to if they can't pledge right now, that they continue to pledge if they can, because we'll use it to, we'll use it, and we'll, we've mentioned, the 100 extraordinary women before, and I just wanna bring that up. That we'll do whatever we can to, make their pledges work for the library, make it them look good.
Well, the other thing is that now that we have a design, it will make it easier to go to people, present that new information and say, here, I mean, we're a little ways away from that. We gotta see how the finances come in, on the bid process. But then once we have that, then it's a lot easier to go to people that have an outstanding pledge to ask them, to come through. Here's what we're gonna be doing. Now we have something concrete. And I think that should, propel more giving, I would guess.
Alex, are you the main one to monitor these payments? Is that, and then we approve, is that?
So for the 100 Extraordinary Women, that was actually facilitated through the Friends group. It has an automatic payment process, so I receive the receipts emailed to me, and we have an Excel file where I've been tracking those as they come in to make sure they're all on target. The other pledges.
I'm talking about the renovation project?
Yes.
Are you the one that does most of the number keeping?
You mean like as we receive those invoices?
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, I am keeping track of it, but it's my understanding from talking with Adam as that proceeds, we should be getting kind of a report
So we're
as we go
getting
along.
reports from the city, so you
Yeah.
don't have to do all that.
Correct. Yeah. Because everything will be
Yeah.
flowing through the
I
city.
think I remember that now, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, they'll start out with the top number, and then every time there's a draw, it'll say, this is what this is being requested to cover this part. And there'll be,
Good.
that chunk of money will come down, and then you'll say, here's the balance that's left. And then it'll just keep stepping down like that every
Good.
month until it's done. So, yeah, it should be okay, yeah. Okay, guys, we made it, 8 o'clock.
7.
Motion to adjourn.
I move to
Okay.
adjourn.
Second.
All right, thanks you guys for sticking in and sticking with it.